Who's conducting?
Steve, I will be conducting today. Do you want to kick us off? I love your introductions.
Hey, welcome to the Common Unity NAC meeting today, July 18th. And Lynn Decker will be conducting our meeting today. Turn it over to you, Lynn. I'd like to do introductions, but most people, it's up to you if you want to allow everybody to say hi.
Sure. Well, we've got some new faces. I think that would be great if we can say hello. And as Steve likes to kind of say how you're doing today and what you'd like to get out of the meeting, I think these group council meetings are certainly appropriate for checking in.
So how are you feeling? And what are your expectations today? What's your intention as you come to the meeting today? And Kendall, is Kendall?
Kendall, yes.
All right, Kendall. So I'm going to ask you, how are you feeling today? And what are you expecting today? And when you're complete, you then turn it over to somebody else.
Okay.
This engages everybody. That means everybody's got to stay awake and see who's been sharing and who hasn't shared. So it involves everybody. So Kendall, how are you feeling and what do you expect? What's your intention? And then pass it on to somebody else.
Okay. Yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm over here on Oahu. I got connected from this group from Kevin Kishida. I did Lomi with Kevin and La'au Lapa'au and Sweat Lodges. And I'm also a combo practitioner over here. So kind of involved in a bunch of different holistic arts. Kevin and I also, we get some medicine, sometimes ayahuasca from the Big Island of Hawaii, and have hosted some very small ceremonies over here. And of course, that's not legal. We were hoping to figure out maybe how working with the church, this kind of thing could protect us to continue to do that in a way that we don't stress out about it so much. So that's kind of my intention, is just to be here for knowledge and to see what's possible.
Beautiful. Want to pass it on to somebody else? Kendall, name somebody else. Go ahead and just name somebody on the list.
Kendra.
Say, how are you feeling? How are you feeling and what's your intention?
How are you feeling and what's your intention?
I was in ceremony service this past weekend, and today is probably the first day that I feel like I'm a human and I feel like I'm back in my body and I feel like I've gotten a good amount of rest. And so that's amazing. And I love that. My intention for today is to continue to learn and be open. I desire very much to be in service and just to learn more about this medicine path and how we can support each other so that we can spread, again, to your point, Kendall, without like the stressors that can come with that. And I just want to say that I love that you're on Oahu. One of my brothers and his wife live on Oahu. And so now when I come, I can look you up and be like, hey. So that's super exciting for me. So that's where I'm at today. And I'm just here to be open and learn and to give whatever wisdom that I can contribute. So I'm complete. And Christina, how are you today? And what do you hope to, what's your intention for the call?
Thank you, Kendra. I'm happy to be here. I'm glad to be in service. I'm looking forward to this co-creation that we're going to create here tonight, and hopefully we could create some big things. I'm excited to be here with all of you, and I'm glad to have spent some time with you, Kendra. It was truly, truly amazing. I'm happy to be in service and support of Lynn tonight, and let's push it forward. I can't see who's on, so I think Jent's here. My natural recourse, that's where I'm going. So Gent, how you feeling? What do you expect to get out of tonight? And how you doing?
Sorry, let me hang up on my phone.
Want me to hang up on that one?
Yeah, please.
I can remove the phone.
Okay. It's not easier.
How you feeling and what do you expect today?
Oh, now I'm a little rushed because I was working out, thought I had all kinds of time. I finished the Stairmaster, looked up at the clock, it said 3 o'clock. I'm like, oh, I got 2 hours. Because I was supposed to pick Olive up at 4. And then I'm like working out. And then I like look at my phone, it says 4:28. And I was like, wait a second, that clock was wrong. So, so I'm like rushing to get on now. So, yeah, so we had Lynn and Christine and I had a little chat the other day. So looking forward to seeing what people think about gathering. So I always say that until you don't know somebody until you sit in ceremony with them. And I've only sat in ceremony with four of the folks that are on. Yeah. So it'd be good to, be able to connect with folks on that in that way as we move forward. So I'm looking forward to talking about possibilities of that. And let's see. Somebody new. Jamie.
Hi, my name's Jamie.
How are you feeling today, and what are you hoping to get out of this meeting?
I am doing great, thank you. And I was invited by Kevin Kishida to join this meeting, talking about midwifery, actually. So looking forward to just hearing what you folks are up to and what feels true, and if this is maybe the alignment and the place that I need to be searching for some support, or if I can support y'all in any way in your missions.
And so normally, Jamie, you would hand it off to somebody else, but you kind of just dropped in, and so hand it off to me. And so I'm glad to be here. I'm excited to have these introductions. I just, I miss not being able to hear from everybody at the beginning. The whole idea of being in common unity is really exciting. And these kind of sharing how I'm feeling is a critical part of that common unity. I expect to hear more about this common unity movement and how we can stay on purpose and how we can work together doing our own things and doing those things together. So Linda, how are you feeling and what do you expect from today? And then you can turn it over to Lynn and he can go for it.
I'm feeling good, and I am excited because I can't wait to meet you all. And I think it will be amazing to sit in ceremony with everyone. And I'm going to pass it off to Lynn. Lynn, how are you feeling? And what do you expect to get out of today?
Thank you, Linda. I am doing quite well. I'm happy to be here, grateful to be with all of you. Work has been pretty aggressive with the summer and a lot of projects that I have going on there. And excited to continue on with a lot of the progress that we have happening here in our community. And what I'm hoping to get out is I think one thing that is also shifting is we're moving toward focused effort on certain projects. And I'm excited to see some of that materialize, hopefully through this call specifically. So with that being said, did we miss anybody? Everybody's here? Everybody's accounted for? Fantastic.
We did miss somebody, Lynn. Can I take 2 minutes and say who?
Please.
And not the young one there, although, yeah. But so you know how we were talking and you were like excited about the possibility of inviting a whole bunch of other people, and we were like, well, maybe for this first one, we just want to keep it to the council and just a few people. And then all of a sudden, like 2 new people show up out of nowhere. So, that speaks volumes when things like that happen. So I'm open to, and maybe now Christina is too, open to the idea of, maybe sending it out to the community and saying, hey, this is what we're doing. And, looking at who wants to come. So, but I can talk more about why I said that and what happens sometimes in my experience when folks who hear about something and they're excited about it, but they've never been to that come. Well, I can just say it now. My concern is sometimes when people haven't ever done ceremony or medicine work, like it's a little overwhelming for them, and you never know. I mean, with grandfather, peyote, and a sweat lodge, it's not so much that big things come up, say as with ayahuasca, right, Kendall? So, and Kendra knows, and Christina, but still, sometimes things can come up which can distract from the group, but that's the only thing that has been a concern for me. But it sounds like, the folks that are coming are people who already know about this kind of work and would want to support it and be involved with a group. So, but anyways, I thought it was cool that 2 people came up. What a manifestation.
Yeah,
So anyway,
it certainly is. Well, and Jen, let's go ahead and unpack that. I think that really the intention of today's meeting, if I can set some of the agenda and intention here, is, of course, coming together in common purpose and unity around the idea of especially events and gatherings that we hope to be able to have moving forward. The desire is also a goal to organize and orchestrate a kind of a first event of us being able to come together and to be able to share time and space. I think it's kind of it is a significant gathering, or at least that's the desire, because this is a new chapter. This is a new chapter for all of us, and this is a new transition, and bringing all of us together in one place, I think, is a beautiful way of being able to how do I say this? Make that marriage official of the community, and to make those things really significantly placed in our hearts and in our purpose and everything we're doing moving forward. And I think that this is hopefully just an opportunity to reinforce that. So the conversation to this point is that we're looking at an event coming up. We're hoping to be able to organize something. We've been throwing around some dates and times, some things that we'd like to be able to do. I think one thing that we'd like to discuss that Jen brings up as well is, what is the format of that and the intention and purpose of those gatherings, and how can we make sure that these are things that are as inclusive as possible, but also that have specific intention in how we do them together as a group too. So ceremony, of course, is central to all of that. But I think that one of the things that I'd like to be able to see in an early, if we can get a gathering where we're organizing more of the council together, is that we're also meeting in council just to hopefully to discuss and to formalize a few things, that we're meeting in ceremony, and that we're also meeting in community, meaning we're also gathering in fun and celebration and possible training and additional things that we can be doing for the community. Not all of that has to be engaged on that level. And as Jen mentioned, we've talked even a little bit about having ceremony just for council members, and also the potential of having gatherings like this where we can invite the entire community meaning their families and people that are in your relative tribes. And granted, we're all kind of spread out too. So I just wanted to introduce in general some of these so that we can talk about, what's worked, what hasn't worked in the past, maybe where there may be challenges, both in terms of orchestrating time and people and resources and even equipment that we need to be able to make sure that everybody can have an enjoyable, positive experience and be fed and cared for all the way through it as well. So with that, want to kind of open up the floor. Jen and Christina are the chairs of the events committee. I'd certainly like to open up to them first if they want to introduce some additional thoughts into how we look at this, maybe even talk about some of the dates and times and locations that we've talked about so far, and see if we can come to some understanding and consensus as a community here. With that, Jeff, Christina, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
So I think the most important part that we understand is this is a co-creation between all of us. It's important. I think our focus is to gather the council for us to come together and really sit with sacred medicine and grow that space for us to see. Basically, we all know each other through Zoom. Some of us have met in person, and really just to see who we are, what we're doing, that we are in alignment, that we're sitting with sacred medicine, and then where we can grow from here. So it's really a co-creation between all of us. We were trying to target Labor Day weekend, and Jen stopped me along the way if I'm over talking. We're trying to target Labor Day weekend. Utah has the consensus of the members, but that may not be the case if we don't have interest and buy-in from the majority of people in Utah. So it's really up to the council of who's interested, where we're going, what we'll do, and how we can make this happen. So with that, I am complete, and this is really a co-creation between all of us.
Well, just one comment that I'll make to that point, just as things that we've discussed to bring the rest of the team here up to speed, is I think that we can, with consensus, we can achieve that date. That's fast, but that's really what I would want to point out is that, you know, having organized many events, and I know that many of you have as well, we can keep it simple, but that is a fast date. So if we're going to go for doing something that quick, we would have to be kind of all in and be willing to orchestrate and organize that. And I just want to put that out there that would be pretty critical if we're going to go for that soon of a date. So
what date is that?
Labor Day weekend, which I believe is September 1st through the 4th, would be the full setup and takedown. That is September is the 1st is a Friday. So it's Friday essentially would be a setup, show up and setup day. Saturday would be kind of settling in. We've talked about kind of a loose agenda, but it would be essentially a Saturday, a number of events and things we can be doing Saturday, ceremony Sunday, and then Monday is a cleanup and head out day. But that's kind of just a broad outline at this point. There's a lot more that we can, of course, add into that.
Yeah.
We're just trying to make sure that we can get everybody up to the same page
Ceremony Saturday, grandfather medicine Saturday. And if we have a site, an Nippy Sweat Lodge Sunday, that's, you know, we have to work out the details. The first thing that we're trying to see is who is interested. Do we have buy-in? That's really the first step, because if we have interest from the group, then of course we go forward. So it's really just to hear first where everybody's at.
So typically in the NAC, like traditional NAC meetings, grandfather ceremonies are done Saturday from sunset to sunrise. So I'd prefer to do grandfather ceremony Saturday night. And then usually if you do a sweat lodge at the same time or around that time, you would do the sweat lodge after. So that would be Sunday, sometimes Sunday. So
I was curious about that. Have you not done sweat lodges before as part of purification process?
who, me?
Or any of you?
I've done thousands
you?
of sweat lodges.
Gent is the
Well,
sweat
that's
lodge.
what I mean, is like in terms of it, like, is there a specific need for the order, or does that, like, I would almost even do 2 sweat personally, but that's me.
Yeah, well, you're young and full of energy. There's a 5th round in a sweat lodge. It's called the Warrior Round. It's made for people like you. So, but
Something to prove, right?
So I used to be a
my
chess
question is, why Utah? Why not Washington?
because there's one of us up here. I mean, there's 3 of us up here, yes. But it's just, I just said Utah because that's where it seems like the greatest number of people are.
I think one desire, of course, is we're trying to find a time and date and location that can accommodate the most people as possible of the community and council. at this stage, we don't know what availability is like. And although it's a holiday, I know that people have, personal and family things, conflicts as well. And that's what we're trying to investigate here, is do enough due diligence on impact, and do people have the availability?
Yeah, and I'm choosing when I say where most people are, I'm just going off from from the time we had our first meeting, how many ever weeks ago until now. I'm looking at who's been on the most often, and where they're from. So just thinking, oh, those would be the people that would be most likely to show up, are the people who show up to these calls every week, right? And the majority of those people are in Utah. At least 5 of you. Like if we go by the last, if we took the last 4 calls and took an average, I think it's like 5 people from Utah, then myself from Washington, and Kendra and Christina in New York, and now we have some new folks representing Hawaii. So
I can say from my perspective, I mean, I just did a quick search on it. Going to Utah, flying into Utah is literally half the cost of flying into Washington. for
yeah,
those-
it's weird. Yeah, flying to Seattle for whatever reasons. Yeah, same thing when I flew, when I was living in California and I'd go back and forth, it was a lot cheaper than Washington for whatever reason. Like everything's expensive up here now. So,
Okay. Well, I nominate where we did not this year's Vision Quest, but the year before. And there are several sweat lodges that I can check into.
so she's talking about up in Logan Canyon.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm in support of this council. Wherever you want us to go, I will be there.
mhm.
So you're saying arrival would be on Friday. And then everybody's camping out. Then you do the peyote ceremony Saturday night through Sunday morning. And then you do a sweat lodge Sunday afternoon? Evening?
Yes. I mean, like we said, first round here is really to see what interests we have. And it's a co-creation.
And the Friday night, Saturday part is, super important too. Like just being able to sit down and share kind of histories. Like we've done intros with one another, and about 15 minutes, I guess, was spent each person sharing who they are, because it was an 1.5-hour call, and I think at that call there was 10 people or something on. So 15 minutes or less. It's hard to know who somebody is and what they've done and what they want, what they can add, in 15 minutes. So to have, how many ever hours Friday night, and the next day until sunset gives us a lot more time for people to connect and share. Yeah. So that's an important part. Sorry.
I personally would like to open it up to people who have been doing my ceremony. If we're going to do it in Utah, I'd like to gather my community that I have here and not just the council.
So, and Lynn was saying the same thing. And I think if there's people, I think we need to, I would appreciate communicating to people that though it's a ceremony with a particular focus. That you know, that you had your own branch of Baklava, but now you're creating your own church, or we are creating our own church or churches, right? Because Kendall, Jamie Lee, I hope I'm saying your name right, Jamie Lee. That's looks like how it should be pronounced. That so we've talked about kind of the legalities of plant-based or entheogenic churches, and how you know, it's important that each church have a specific medicine that is that focus in order to meet the criteria that, you know, if you know, police or whoever ever came in, you're going to be much more likely to have a positive outcome in your defense if it's very focused to one particular medicine. So you know, there's talk about having, you know, different churches for each plant medicine setup. Where was I going with this? Oh, yeah, that the folks who would come would be folks who would be interested in being on a council and supporting, you know, the creation of such things, as opposed to people who are just wanting to come and do, say, their personal work, or just see what a ceremony's like, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I am only talking about people who have been around, not new people.
Yeah. So
Well, I'll just say, I think there's a possibility, a potential for us to be able to do both. And that's part of what I mean, that we have, you know, an agenda of events where we can meet as council while we have community still out and involved and a part of what's going on. In fact, to be quite frank, I think that in order for this to be successful, because we're starting, like I said, a new chapter here in this organization, that in order for us to set the tone from a council standpoint, it really needs to be seen and understood by the community at large, that the leadership of the council is actively involved, and that things that we're doing together within these types of gatherings is inclusive of them, but they also see the role of leadership and how they're working together to help knit this community closer together. That makes sense.
I have a question, reflection, whatever. I'm just curious if, because I hear what you're saying, Lynn, as far as like letting people see the leadership. And I'm just wondering if this first gathering isn't a benefit for the leadership to see the leadership. And then
It
expand,
100% can be. Yeah.
you know.
Sorry, I
Yeah,
didn't mean to cut you off. I apologize.
I'm more in alignment with that, Kendra. I think if you're looking to gravitate to a group of not necessarily elders, but leaders, you have to give them that time, and you have to sit with that community. I mean, I'm open to participants, but I think if you want to build a foundation, you have to build a foundation.
Mhm. So
I
are
mean,
we,
things start at building a solid base, and that's with this council. You guys have not come together as a council. Before you start inviting participants, you haven't organized with it. We haven't organized within ourselves yet.
mm,
That's
I
kind
can
of what
appreciate
happens.
that.
I mean, you could always do anything in any amount of time. And that's, what people have said a lot. You're sitting with somebody, if you're sitting with people that are elders and you're having somebody that's, relatively new, there's a big difference. If you guys are trying to start a council, don't you think that you should build that foundation first?
I see good
I
wisdom
mean,
in that, Christina. Yeah, I do. And we can certainly focus the scope of this initial gathering to just council. But here's the other question to that is that time frame and opportunity available to the most council members as possible then?
yeah, that's what I think I'm here to find out. But even,
Right.
and let me just say this clearly, just because I have a different view does not mean that I will not support a different one than mine. I will be in full support of what we think is the best thing. This is just my thoughts behind that. I'm in support. I'm just giving you my strong thoughts. I think that if we want to build a house, you need a solid foundation or else your house will crumble.
I think it's certainly appropriate. My opinion about that as well is that I think that's entirely appropriate for what is needed within the community. And if we can do that in a way that helps everybody that wants to be involved, absolutely. And maybe that'll actually even help to set the stage for planning for future events, because in all reality, if we want to have a larger community that's there, it requires more organization and orchestration to make things work and have it be a positive experience for everybody instead of just pulling it off. You know what I mean?
So Kendra, is there any chance you can come?
Absolutely. I mean, again, I just looked up airfares and I'm like, if we decide that it's Labor Day weekend and whatever, it's less than $200 round trip. Like, I'm pulling the trigger and I will make my,
Yeah,
I will
we'll be on
let
that
my
plane
co-parent
together.
know what's up. Very exactly, flying out of Newark, So yeah, I would be 100% yes.
Can we put together something that we can send out to all of the remaining members and get feedback in terms of availability and interest, and kind of say, hey, this is the gathering that we're intending. This is the scope of that and the intention. This first one being that it's focused on council members and trying to be able to get all of us together in one place, and just specifically propose it in that way to all of the rest of the members, because we do have a lot of people that I know want to be involved, but haven't been here to regular meetings and haven't been involved on planning side of things. Is there, aside from the 10 people that are on this call, can we do something that will help us to reach out to the rest of the council and get some feedback on that?
I can do that.
Okay. If we're also going to shoot for this date, it's stuff that we're going to have to move relatively quickly. We'd probably need to send that out tomorrow, if at all possible, or this week, and try to be able to get a firm commitment
Lynn,
by our meeting next week.
Everyone. I'm not going to send anything out. I'm going to call everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. If that's the case, then does everybody feel good about that? And if so, can we spend some time just, I guess, focusing on making sure that you have information to be able to provide and share with what the scope of the event and the gathering will be and what our attention is there? And maybe sometimes it's easier to get people to buy in when they understand the vision of what we're trying to achieve here. So is everybody in agreement on that path with Linda? Just give me a thumbs up.
Yeah, I'm in alignment with that.
Fantastic. Hey, Kevin, welcome. We've got some of your other tribe here, buddy. Thanks for joining us. So if that being said, in terms of, we'll just assume that moving forward, the scope of the project is to go for a date, Labor Day weekend. We'll say location still to be determined, but we've got a couple of good potential options. Sites we've used before. I understand that Melinda can't be, she's got other stuff going on, so that's not an option, but there were a couple of other proposed locations as well. Maybe we set that aside for the moment and talk about services and kind of the event itself and the scope of what we're trying to achieve there. Maybe that'll be helpful. Steve, do you have any input on this?
I'm listening carefully and making some notes. Don't have any input right now.
Okay. Linda, how would you like to see an event like that take place? What would be your ideal? And by the way, I want to create space for our creation, our co-creation here, and realize that I understand that we've done certain things a certain way in the past with ONAC, but we are starting a new chapter, and we're happy to build on what we've learned and where we're going, but doesn't mean there's room for improvement and change too. So Linda, do you have some additional thoughts there?
other than pipe, I think we've covered everything. Oh, movement, pipe and movement, I'd like to see that added. Maybe some sound baths, movement. And I can be in charge of getting that. Gents, great at pipe.
Well, if I'm pouring, I mean, a pipe would be part of, like, if we're gathering to speak, usually a chanupa is, you know, used in that whole process. Sometimes as the, you know, they pass that and people talk when the chanupa comes to them. So it's kind of like using a talking stick or something like that. And then also chanupa, I mean, I don't know how to do a sweat lodge without a chanupa. So I learned Lakota and Nipi, so it always has chanupa. So
And exactly what you described is what I'm talking about with pipe, using the pipe in our morning circles.
Linda, how would you feel about including some of that? I know that some people here do have some formal training and just have also a lot of experience. How would you feel, because this will be this particular gathering focused towards council, that we also include like some training and reinforcement of ritual and ceremony and process, not just setting it up and experiencing it, but also reinforcing proper process and etiquette and development of the ceremonial space as well.
I think that would be wonderful. Teachings are always so.
by proper, you mean how we learned it, how we were taught?
In the ways that we know, and we use the ways that we know that are in alignment with truth, certainly.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember 30 years ago, you know, lots of making a big deal out of certain things, but Heoka and life has given me a lot more patience and compassion over the years. So don't have much ego left. So
Are there other things that can also be included into this? I mean, obviously this would be a special time for us to be able to gather as a council. Are there other things, elements that would be especially helpful in, you know, us being within the same space and together, that people would benefit the most from, that we haven't discussed yet? Does anybody have any ideas on how we can make the best use of time?
You can organize a small petting zoo.
Yeah. Should we go find the animals first?
the animals are already here.
I probably will want to do animal cards because that teaches us so much about each other. But again, I'm not attached. And I would love to hear from everyone. Kendra, what would you like to see?
Well, honestly, it was already spoken about as far as just best practices or teachings about, you know, the various, you know, ancestral roots, you know, so that it just continues to reinforce the importance. I think especially for me in the wake of, you know, all these movements, you know, psychedelics and, you know, in the, we'll say in the modern world, right? In the clinical model, like making sure that we're educating ourselves. And I would like to be further educated on, you know, just some of the roots of the tree so that I can continue to help carry that information in an accurate way. But also, to Jen's point, with compassion and understanding, like I can help educate somebody else if I am educated myself and I come at it with love. So for me, that's the biggest thing. And then past that, you know, and we've talked about this, sort of touched on this, as far as having more than 15 minutes, like I would really love to have a very depthy sharing opportunity, you know, for people to really see, you know, not just our light, but our shadow, like, you know, where are we at, you know, and what are our edges? What are the edges that we're looking to soften? Because for me, that is the most important piece. I find it really easy to be shiny around anyone. I find it much more difficult to feel like I'm in a safe enough container to be like, oh, and here's my shadowy stuff, you know. So I would really love to have a really depthy sharing opportunity, and maybe even facilitated with, you know, some prompts, so that it's not just open, right? It's not just sort of an open, you know, facilitated in a really nice way. So I'm complete.
I have one thing maybe to add to that, and what Linda is saying as well. What if we were to format that in a way that members are asked to come and teach, and also to have something to share? I think that there's something really powerful in the experience of, you get to know somebody very intimately when they are teaching as well and sharing something of their own knowledge to a group. And I think that can be a very valuable, positive way of doing that as well.
I love that.
Well, let's say that we'd like to be able to have a number of ceremony and ritual based things going on, as well as some enrichment and education, food, and, you know, and being able to celebrate and truly show gratitude for what is coming together here as a community. This has been a road that has taken a lot of work to get to this stage, and I'd really love to be in a position where, in coming together, we're also somewhat formalizing this relationship as well, and maybe even having things prepared that we can, like we even talked about in our last meeting, how we're kind of formalizing some of the aspects of the church, that those can even be signed to and agreed to as a council. Anyone have any thoughts about that?
Sounds good. So,
Okay.
Lynn, did you
Go ahead.
come up with any places?
I do, but, you know, I think that they're also places that we can use for future events as well. Some that would, I think, be significant and interesting, but I've even kind of uncovered a few more. I know that we have a couple of properties that are available to us, and maybe part of what we're doing here is just building a network and a book of available places and spaces that we can have these gatherings. I can share some of those if you'd like.
Please.
Sure. So in addition to, I think there were a couple of different locations up in the Logan area, Melinda's being one. Even if we were to potentially do those later on in the year, she's been very generous with her time and space. I think that there was a couple of other properties that I'm not familiar with. I think Jen mentioned, but a couple of the ones that I've come across as well is there's a place that's BLM land that's just west of Grantsville, Utah. It's in Tooele County, called Lone Rock, which is in Skull Valley. It's a big open basin with a big plateau over it. That's again on BLM land that is available. And while I was talking to the BLM, they also, because I was just checking on requirements for special permitting and anything else, they also recommended another place that might be accessible to us either for free or for well, it sounds interesting, is the Polynesian Center that's just south from there, which is actually called Iosepa or Iosepa. It's the reason why I mentioned that one is that it has facilities that are built in, whereas some of these other locations don't have, you know, bathrooms and don't have water and those types of spaces, or even covered awnings. So there's a couple of locations that are like that, or that I think are accessible to us, especially for larger groups. Are there any other locations that have worked well for this group in the past?
And I have one I'm going to check out that another church member gave me.
Well, maybe we start just keeping a running
So
list
I
of
would love
these locations.
to hear from our Polynesian people and if they think they can come and if they could come, what they would like to see. So one of you just pop on. Did Kevin go away?
Kevin
I think
dropped.
we lost. Yeah.
You said Polynesian and we disappeared.
Go ahead. You're muted.
I'm gonna have to get off in a couple minutes too, because I have to take my kids somewhere. But yeah, Kevin, maybe he was driving, he could have dropped the connection. I can check in with him about what he thinks.
Okay, and what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there can be there's definitely a lot of protection under being Polynesian, and there's a lot of Hawaiian rights and cultural rights that can allow things to happen that wouldn't normally be able to happen. So I think, yeah, Kevin would definitely be the one to discuss that with, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, in the sake of time, while we have members here, do we also want to have a quick conversation about, assuming that we have buy-in for that date and time, budget and kind of the scope of putting this event and food and those types of items as well? Do we want to talk about any of the organization of that, or do we want to hold off on that until we have follow-up information from additional members?
We can talk about it. That will give me an idea of who's interested and what people want. And
how have you typically handled that in the past with larger gatherings within?
I've just put a menu together and then ask for volunteers to make it happen.
Does that include in terms of like budget and that, or is this more like potluck style typically?
No, no, because we're going to be there for so long. Potluck. I mean, the first day can be potluck, but after that, that's really difficult.
Okay. Have you ever spent the time to do kind of a breakdown of what the estimate or average of like what we should plan for in terms of cost and food for
Because
people
food
and
has
space?
gone up so much, I would have to redo it.
Okay. Well, just throwing this out there, I do have access to, we'll say, well-priced goods and food and other products as well, depending on what our needs are. And if we have a little bit of a head time, just because I work in logistics and supply chain, some business surplus stuff, I might be able to help keep our costs down. It just depends on how many people and what our needs are.
Yeah. So I
Hey, Kevin's
think
back.
at this point, it's that call that I will start tomorrow, finish up. And then if Jen and Christina and you and we could get together and formalize more so we could get a letter out.
Okay. Do we want to set kind of a target for cost for any of this in terms of also, providing for everything, time and space and ceremony and all of that as well?
Christina and Jen, I'm leaving that up to you.
Yeah, I think we have to see what the and obviously
Hey, Christina,
there's
apologize to
anybody's
cut you off.
from
Having a hard time hearing you.
here. So good. And,
We still can't hear you.
Your signal's distorted, Christina.
Okay, we'll come back. Jen, did you have any thoughts there?
Here comes Nicole.
Um, no, no,
Can
I
you hear
did-
me if I have no video on?
yeah,
Yes.
You're,
Sorry,
yes.
yeah, I apologize. I'm not home, guys. I obviously I think we're all we're in alignment. This is not like obviously a money-making event at all. We're just trying to cover costs. So we're gonna try and keep those costs as low as possible. And we'll see how we come together based on the head count. So first we need to know participants who of this council wants to attend. And I think once we have a head count, we move forward.
Okay. So don't book the band yet, is what you're saying.
We have to just find out who is interested in coming, have the band on standby. And
Got it.
I think we can really create something great together.
Okay. I agree. We want to make this accessible and affordable, especially with people traveling as much as possible, and try to limit that. I think that we can dial that in pretty quickly. Like I said, if we want to try to hit that date, my only concern is actually just our ability to achieve that without stumbling through it and still be able to provide a positive, achieve the experience and achieve the outcome we're hoping for, which is a deeper unity of the council and to be able to meet in heart and spirit there. So is there anything that we haven't included in this conversation that we should be for this specific item?
I think we have a nice outline, and I will call everyone and get feedback and then if the four of us and maybe Steve meet, because he's going to be typing everything up. Then by next Tuesday, we should have a firm plan.
Okay. I think we'll definitely need to have a firm plan by then if we're going to be able to move forward, at least for that date. And if not,
Yeah.
I don't have any problem saying, hey, maybe we just hold off or maybe we shoot for another time. But if we can arrive at that, and if we can get, let's say, at least a strong percentage of members that are involved, do we have kind of a desired, I mean, I don't know how many total members there are in the council, but do we have kind of a number we want to hit for it to be, kind of the critical threshold for us of a go or no go? Should we just see
Stina, what do you think?
See what the response is first?
I think that the real important thing is to get the people that want to be included are gonna show. And I think that's pretty much a standard with everything. People that want to be in service of you, Linda, are going to do everything within their power to be there. And that may not be a very large number. And sometimes things start trimming down based on that. And I think that's fine. So it's really what you're okay with. I think building a solid foundation is the most important thing that we're doing right now.
Okay.
Does that mean we would potentially move forward even with 5 or 10 of us, for example?
I
Or
think
would it-
that's,
Or is
I
there like a
think that's
threshold
really,
where we say,
no, I think that that's a really good start. I think you have to see who wants to be there. And, you know, a lot of times everybody's doing the best we can. Kendra heard about this and she's like, I'm there. You know, so I think you're going to have that response. And then I think you're going to have a group of people that are be like, well, it doesn't matter what the date's going to be. They're going to be on the fence anyway.
right?
So I think
So,
sooner or
Kevin-
later
If we
we
can
have to go
communicate
forward.
as much value as possible to any of the council members, I think that's part of what also helps with the buy-in too, that vision of what the event
I'm
is.
not hearing you now, Lynn.
Oh, apologize, I could just be mumbling. What I said, Linda, is in terms of the event, I think part of what that is also is being able to communicate the vision of what the event is, so that people understand why they want to be there. It's not, I think that almost any of us would make the sacrifice because we have continued to show up and make sacrifice to be a part of and engage. We just want to communicate that vision as clearly as possible.
Lynn, that's why I'm calling rather sending out a letter.
I think that's wise.
Kevin, what is your chances of being able to come?
In the mainland, what day is it? It's September.
Labor Day, September 1st through the 4th.
I'd have to check finances, but I don't know. We might be able to find some places in Hawaii if that's something more feasible for me. You guys want to make it somewhere colder too? If you guys want to come to someplace warm, like Kendall has a lot of hookups too with different places we can set up. She holds retreats all the time.
We'll come to Hawaii
So,
in December.
In Hawaii, guarantee. In the mainland, it's like September is kind of cutting it close for me. But December would be more feasible in the mainland. But yeah.
Well, I'd love to be able to get to a point where we
Inlanders.
have the resources to even help get the whole council out there. That would be amazing. And we'd love to share that space out there. I think everybody could agree to that.
Kevin, whoever you have in Hawaii, you guys could sit that night and we will still be together.
I think it's important also, I just want to add a thought. I think it's important to recognize that we're coming together as a council, you know, creating something new. And I thrive in a strong foundation, 100%. And I'm not saying just to like throw shit on the wall and hope some of it sticks. Like, I think there's a good planning, and I think there's a really great opportunity to allow for us to witness the mistakes and the hiccups so that we can start to patch that in and create that strong foundation. So, you know, I know that I can get lost in the minutia of like wanting to make it perfect before it even happens. And so I just want to encourage us to, you know, recognize that we're coming together for something new. And so if the plan isn't, if the plan is planned at 95%, maybe that's our 100 right now, if that makes sense. So I just want to throw that out there.
Maybe it's just me, but there's something about ceremony in particular that it turns out exactly not how you planned it.
Yeah, what do we call that? Payoka?
Okay.
Payoka, but also life.
Yeah, I'm all about that. I love my triggers, to be honest with you. I appreciate them, every single one of them. And I'm great with that. I think we're trying to solidify the relationship with everyone here, which is super, super important. So that's the only reason why I speak to that. But like I said, whatever, even if my thoughts are different, I am in full support of you.
Is there anything in any of your minds that like would help us to build that bridge or to solidify that relationship? You know, of course, spending time in ceremony in this space, but is there anything that you have experienced even in other communities and in other groups that that bringing that to our space would help to reinforce and help to encourage and support this community as it is building foundation.
Yes. I trust the medicine. Like
Yep.
always, like without a doubt. It's never failed. So trust the medicine.
Yep. And with everything else we talked about, I totally agree. And I would love it, Kevin, if you and your people could sit on that Saturday night with your medicine and then we can share. We always do an integration call. And we can plan a date and time where maybe the next Tuesday, the following Tuesday can be our integration call and we can all talk about what we learn.
Fantastic. Well, I'm
I
not
have
one
a
of those people.
question. Oh,
Oh,
sorry. I
go
have a
ahead.
question really
Please.
fast. Kevin,
Oh,
what
Nicole showed
island
up.
are you
Hi.
on? Because I think Joey's out there too. Well, I know he is.
Joey's what?
Joey's out in Hawaii, and I was wondering what island Kevin is on because
We're on
maybe Joey
Oahu.
could join you. Oahu?
Yeah, Joey's on Big
Okay.
Island. Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Maybe he can get himself to Oahu.
Kendra, you got flights out of what city did you, into Salt Lake? What city were you flying?
It would be actually out of Newark, so it'd be in New Jersey. And
Oh, you're in Newark?
I'm not, I'm in Westchester County. And so, but I'm just talking about from when I looked it up, the least expensive flight would be out of Newark for that weekend, which currently is $196 round trip, which doesn't suck. Right? That's like a no
Less than
brainer.
we'll spend in gas.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's a
Yeah.
no brainer for me.
You're probably gonna fly 2.5 times as many miles and into the wind or the prevailing winds usually for less than it will cost me to go from Seattle to Salt Lake. So,
Can't you just drive to someplace cheaper? Seattle was expensive. Like, what do you guys have up there besides coffee?
rain
Boeing aircraft,
and rain. And
Starbucks, Bill Gates.
Well, here's a seed I'd like to plant moving forward in everybody's mind. I know we're kind of shooting the breeze here a little bit, but one seed I'd like to plant is I'd love to be able to start forward thinking as well in terms of events and activities. And I know that I guess up to this stage, ONAC hasn't been a big supporter of larger gatherings or even these type of community gatherings, frankly, not in the same way. And I'd like to propose that there is a desire to, at least from myself, and I've heard from other members as well, to have a larger community gathering where we do invite our communities, tribes, and even public that wants to be participation or even just be in the same space, even if they're not participating in ceremony, but they're sharing the same space, and for us to be able to do more outreach. There's a lot more that we can potentially do, like not to compare it, but yeah, I know that many of you have experienced like Burning Man and those types of community types of gatherings. And I think that we can do things that are even in larger scale. Thanks for being here, Christina. And I'm just saying, I'd like to propose that, hey, that's something that I'd like to see happen if you guys are open to that, where we start planning toward making something like that happen on a larger scale, if people are open to it.
yeah, so that was part of what we were doing with Sacred Wisdom Circle is, we had the teachings, but we also were trying to gather community together. So, we had times where, 50, 60 people were up there, and which is why I was saying when we have equipment, we have it in triplicate. So, like we'd have three burner stoves, because it's a lot to cook for 60 people.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Well,
So,
I'm suggesting even larger
even
scale
bigger,
than that,
sure.
like where to potentially be inviting a lot of other tribes to participate as well. And that we have a strong foundation within our community, but that we're also inviting other tribes and for them to be involved in some of those even dances and ceremony. So
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, invite people from Ixta, and, which is mostly in Arizona and Southern California. And then even, who knows, NAC people or whatever. So,
well, I'm excited to do it better and build this community and to be spending time more closely with all of you. I've valued, of course, the times we have here on Zoom to learn and communicate and to organize the administration side of things, but also to get in and do the work too together. So thank you for all of that. I'm not one of those people that think we have to go all the way up to 6:30 for us to have a complete meeting and for us to be fulfilled with what our next steps are and where we're going from here. Is there anything that should have been discussed or needs to be brought up before the council before we bring this session to a close?
I know he didn't call me back, but we could probably invite Steve Urquhart or at least some of the more senior people or more involved people in the Divine Assembly as well. I mean, that's a group that, created a church and is very active and, is going to have some knowledge and experience. And I know a number of people who've gone to some of their, or are involved with them. So, yeah, so that's something to think about too. So.
I love that. Well, with that being said, unless there is any other business that we need to discuss, sounds like next step is that Linda's going to be contacting everybody that's in the council and discussing this gathering proposed right now for Labor Day weekend, the 1st through the 4th. Right now, we have some soft locations and we can confirm on some of those as well, especially as soon as we have a better idea of a number, a head count at least, of what that looks like, and then we'll formalize a location. So that being said, thank you so much for all being here. I'll be happy to turn it over quickly to Steve if for wrap up and just quick check in if anybody has anything else. Steve, take it away.
Okay, so a wrap up and a quick check in. I think, are you inviting?
I'm inviting you to close our ceremony here.
Yeah, with everybody saying their takeaway today.
Sure.
All right,
Sure.
great. So the invitation will be just say how you're feeling right now and what your takeaway is. I'll go ahead and start, and then I'll pass it on to somebody. You can end up with either Linda or Lynn, however it works out. This has given me cause for pause. I've made notes. So I got about a list of 12 or 14 items here that I'll type up and get out to everybody. Great ideas. And I'm really anxious to see what Linda, as she contacts her people and what our final count would be for our next meetings. I'm looking forward to that. So Kevin, how are you feeling and what's your takeaway today? Kevin, how are you feeling and what's your takeaway today? You have to find your mute button. I wish I could. There you go.
Yeah, feeling good. We got started on our composting toilet I was in T-Mobile for like an hour and a half, trying to switch my phones. So I want to do something, but yeah, really bummed. That meeting sounds good. I gotta really check my finances and everything. Maybe I still can come up in September. But takeaway is, yeah, I just love that we keep moving forward and creating community. Jamie.
I'm super honored to be invited. I'm feeling really grateful to listen in on this vision and have the opportunity to sit with it and come and listen again next week and see what you guys have, the progress that you've made. Sitting in ceremony can look lots of different ways. My way is a little different, and it's really great to hear how you guys are proposing this and how to create unity. And thank you. Thanks for letting me witness this great stuff you guys are doing. Appreciate it. And on to Kendra.
Guys, I'm really excited. That's how I'm feeling right now. I'm feeling really excited, and I'm feeling really just not anxious in a bad way, just like anxious, like, oh wow, like we could all be coming together. I think my biggest takeaway, honestly, I think my biggest takeaway is I'm super excited that I have this soul family I haven't met yet on Oahu, because I have family on Oahu. And I'm like, oh, bet I can go visit my family and meet some more family. So super excited about that. But just really feeling hopeful and curious about what can come next. Yeah, so I'm complete, and I will turn it over to Linda. How are you feeling, and what was your takeaway for today?
Linda, right?
Who?
You.
Linda.
Me. Okay, I didn't hear my name. So I am also very excited. There's nothing that I love more than meeting with like-minded people and dancing all the aspects of who we are. And what I love about ceremony is that this is the place where we get to be authentically ourselves and safe and loved, and we really get to see our innocence and our magnificence. And I will pass it off to Lynn.
Thanks, Linda. Yeah, I'm excited, like all of you, to especially be making progress and moving forward, and to to build and use the mortar of this community to really strengthen what I think we have a lot of strong people here, right? We're all these individual rocks and leaders in our own tribes and communities, and I'm excited to begin building that strength as a foundation together. So thank you, and I'm looking forward to finding the time and space to be able to share in ceremony. As just a personal wrap up on things, one thing that I would like to propose, maybe Steve, you can check this out, is to write down something that'll actually maybe help you so that you don't have to take so many notes. There's something that I use very often in my board meetings, which is called, it sounds funny, but it's called Spinach. It's called spinach.io. If you basically add spinach, it's like spinach@spinach.io.com. It'll actually come in and take all the notes for the entire meeting for you automatically, and then email that out to everybody at the end of the meeting. Something to consider. The only other item that that I just want to mention, just because I'm not seeing quite how to engage with it, is also on the committee progress. I know we have a lot of different committees that we've begun assigning, and it'd be good if we understand, even in the next meeting, on what that communication and engagement plan should be looking like, because I'll be honest, I personally haven't spoken to anybody in any of my committees. So just putting that out there as well. But thank you so much for allowing me to be here and to contribute, and to be a part of this process, and to share all of my gifts as well. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jen. Looks like Linda might have something to say though.
Just want to know who's going to lead next week's meeting, and I think it should be Christina, Jen, or Lynn.
Well, Christina's not here, and Jen went last time, so maybe we reach out to Christina and say, well, didn't Christina also recently present? I don't
She
know.
did present, but it was kind of a weird meeting where she didn't get to do much because she didn't understand the agenda very well and she kept handing it off to somebody else. So it would be appropriate for her to lead that one, I think, if she's interested. Maybe Linda, when you call her, you could invite her to
Okay.
do.
And then I think Jen, you want to sign us off here? I think you're or Jamie. Jamie went? Kevin,
Yeah.
Linda.
Jen's the
last one.
Steve.
Steve went
went-
first.
I went first.
Sure. Yeah, I'm feeling really great about the connection and the possibility that so many folks would show up and that we'd be able to come from long distances. Some of us haven't been in ceremony together for a long time, so that would be really great. And yeah, I'm looking forward to, you know, I mean, I know, Mom, you're gonna call everybody, but I think we got to make sure of who that everybody is, right? Because maybe I'll reach out to you, or we should chat and kind of extend that a little bit too. So, like, there's some folks who haven't been on these calls that, you know, would probably be interested in it, and we haven't discussed that. So, yeah, looking forward to a great gathering and to many more of them. So, especially the ones in Hawaii. So, yeah. So,
New
Right.
York.
yeah, and New York too, right? Sure. Costa Rica. Yeah. So, all right.
A wonderful location in New York. Beautiful farm upstate New York. So just throwing that out there.
Cool.
I think we can establish retreats all over the place and also create a path to be able to make sure that the resources are there for members to be able to participate and to travel where needed. I know that we're all kind of spread thin, but we'll do the best we can until we can get there. I hope we can stay strong and stay patient, faithful in our path, and I'm sure we'll get there.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Maybe
We set up a budget and then everybody knows what their contribution could be, and the budget could include some travel expenses for some people. Maybe.
Maybe.
That certainly moving forward, that's actually one of the benefits of even the DAO is even having funds that are set aside for community, specifically for needs-based opportunities and things like that. We can have donations and different types of contributions being made in a way that can be facilitated, especially once we begin generating revenue in other ways too. So I'm excited to get to that stage, but I'm also excited to get in and just get to know all of you better and spend time in ceremony. Like Jen mentioned, I think we learn a lot about each other in that space and in communion with spirit. So I'm looking forward to it. Well, thank you all. Have a nice evening. Love you all.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Hey, Jen, see you later.